no sign of the captain or crew as yet, and the log and manifest appear to be missing.
Abandoned on the high seas. Does that mean we've got to tow her in and claim salvage, sir?
Might be nothing, but...
Oh, hell.
Isn't that stuff...
Plastic explosive.
An abandoned cargo ship holds a deadly secret for Hero's crew in tonight's episode, The Prize. HMS Hero has set sail from Malta to participate in a night encounter exercise with HMS Hesperus when the crew encounters a freighter hove to a couple of 100 miles off the main shipping lanes. The freighter, identified as the Greek ship Throsk, is not responding to radio hails or to blasts from Hero's horn, so Commander Nialls orders First Officer Beaumont to lead a small boarding party to check it out.
Yeah, Master. All a bit spooky, innit?
Nothing spooky about an empty ship, Drew.
In addition to Beaumont and Master-at-Arms Heron, the boarding party also includes able seamen Drew, Turner, and Grogan. Drew is new to Hero, and at first his clumsiness earns Grogan's ire, but the two quickly become friends when Drew doesn't turn Grogan in for picking a fight with him. The mystery deepens after a thorough stem-to-stern search by the boarding party turns up no crew and no cargo. And then, deep in one of the holds, Turner makes a frightening discovery.
Yes, now listen, lad. Double quick. Get the first lieutenant. Tell him it's urgent.
Aye, Master.
Further inspection by Heron reveals a limpet mine on the other side of the hold, and both devices are on timed fuses. Nialls orders the boarding party off the ship, but as they prepare to evacuate, they find Drew unconscious. He slipped on an oily ladder rung and appears to be paralyzed from the waist down. While the Hero awaits the arrival of the medical officer from Hesperus, Beaumont and Heron make a crucial decision.
Well, we'll have to try and defuse the charges, sir.
Do you think you can cope?
I'll take a closer look, sir. I think it's worth a try.
Well, shall I send Parry over? He's the mine clearance expert.
I think the master and I can manage between us, sir.
Beaumont's hesitation to send for Lieutenant Perry stems from a discussion the two men had earlier in the voyage. Perry confided in Beaumont that he's decided to leave the Navy and join the family business at the urging of his father and his new bride. But he asks Beaumont to keep the news to himself for the time being.
Well, I just hope Lieutenant Parry's on the other end of that stoner. It's a long time since I did this sort of thing.
I'm a bit out of practice myself. Parry goes outside in 3 months, so...
Yes, understand, sir. This could be a job for bachelors.
Beaumont fumbles the detonator for the plastic explosive, but thanks to Heron's quick reflexes, it detonates harmlessly. And fortunately for all concerned, the effort to remove the limpet mine is even more successful. However, before anyone can celebrate, Grogan delivers some very unwelcome news.
Master! I've just found a time bomb in the boiler room!
At first, Perry tries to talk them through the steps to disarm the bomb, but there's just no substitute for being there, and Nialls orders Perry to the Throsk. But when he arrives...
My God, you've activated it! Can we stop it? Damn, can we stop it? Well, only by cutting, and less than a minute, and that goes off. We gotta get out! Cutting what? That's what we can make it. We can just make it if we don't now.
For God's sake, sir. Pull yourself together.
We can get out, but they damn well can't. What the hell are we gonna do?
Okay, Rick, Billy. Right, heed, lads.
Come on. Come on! Come on, give me the pliers. Now, turn it round, steady. That's safe. No, that's another one. Turn it round, Mind the touch.
I'll hold the wire up. Let's see.
Yeah, it should be safe now.
With the emergency now over, Drew is safely evacuated off the Throsk via Hero's helicopter, while below decks, Perry faces Beaumont.
It's not the fear I mind so much. It's just other people knowing about it.
All in all, though, it's just another day on the high seas for the crew of HMS Hero.
From the Hesperus, sir. Congratulations. What is my cut of the prize money?
Make back to him St. Matthew, chapter 19, verse 21.
Sir?
Thou shalt have treasure in heaven.
The Prize is, in this reviewer's humble opinion, one of the best episodes of the first season. It has all of the elements that make for a great episode of the show. Plenty of shipboard operations, both on the bridge and elsewhere throughout the ship. Secondary characters with discernible personalities and interesting backstories. A plot that requires the characters to demonstrate not just their skills and training, but also their courage. Opportunities for Commander Nialls to show off his decisive leadership. And most compellingly, a flawed but sympathetic character who is faced with a potentially life-changing dilemma.
No more runs ashore, no more duty-free booze, no more dollies waiting for you on the jetty.
Oh, he's to his own.
The episode devotes significant screen time to the story of able seaman Drew, ably played by veteran TV and film actor Dennis Blanche, and effectively establishes his relationships with Master-at-Arms Heron, with whom Drew had previously served and who has since developed a fatherly fondness for him. And also with able seaman Grogan, who at first takes a strong disliking to Drew but quickly becomes his friend. It's a lot of time to spend on a character who only appears in this one episode, but it's time well spent because it ensures the viewer cares about what happens to him, and it also significantly ups the stakes for both Heron and Grogan when faced with a literal life and death decision at the episode's climax. The willingness to entrust a guest actor with the responsibility of being the emotional crux of a high-tension story is the kind of decision that makes Warship stand out from the pack. Writer Mervyn Haseman was a prolific writer for television throughout the 1970s, who would go on to write one more Warship story, the second season episode Distant Waters, under the pen name Norman Ashby, a name that has a bit of a backstory. In the late 1960s, Haseman and fellow writer Henry Lincoln wrote two stories for Doctor Who, The Abominable Snowmen and The Web of Fear, featuring their creation, the Yetis. They then went on to write The Dominators, which introduced the somewhat less memorable Quarks. However, disagreements with the BBC over who owned the rights to their characters led Haseman and Lincoln to demand that their names be taken off the writing credits, and instead The Dominators is credited to Norman Ashby, the names of their respective fathers-in-law, whom they each disliked. Veteran visual effects designer Michael John Harris is credited with providing visual effects for this episode, most likely the explosion of the plastic explosives detonator. Perhaps best known for his work on Doctor Who, which also keeps popping up in here, and the 1972 BBC epic War and Peace, Harris also did the visual effects for one of my all-time favorite series, Connections, the 1978 documentary starring the irrepressible science journalist James Burke.
If you release those two gases into a confined space with a hole at the other end of it, and mix them as you do so, and then set light to them, you get that.
In an example of the fanatical attention to detail that is a hallmark of the series, eagle-eyed observers will note that the coordinates given for Throsk,
34 degrees 51 minutes north, 15 degrees 2 minutes east, sir.
match precisely the coordinates shown on Lieutenant Last's chart earlier in the episode. In retrospect, perhaps it's a good thing after all that Lieutenant Perry didn't work too much with bombs because, as this episode revealed, he does seem to have a rather bad sense of elapsed time.
How long has she been stationary? Ever since we picked her up, sir. About 20 minutes ago.
How long has she been stationary?
Oh, ever since we picked her up, sir. About 18 minutes ago.
Toying with the idea of putting Last out of action. Making Parry do your navigation.
That's not just cruel, that's positively suicidal. Everyone knows Parry can hardly find his way to the dockyard gates.
In the next episode, Hero mounts a rescue operation for a submarine trapped on the seafloor. But will the sub-captain's animosity toward Nialls put the operation at risk? That's next time on Did Somebody Say Frigate?